Thank you. Sorry to call you Olean, but I'm sure you're a fine person in your own right. Well, she's usually here, so I'll give her a Cassie a couple minutes. Oh, I remember Cassie's not coming today.
Yeah, she said she
I
was.
just remembered that.
I wasn't sure if Cassie is the girl from Dunkirk, the one that sits behind me. I'm still bad with names.
Madison said she was ill. She's from our Dunkirk.
Okay.
So she won't be here. Well, a couple of things. One is, let me just go to the document camera. I put a traditional morning greeting that Palestinians do, Sabah al-Khair, which translates morning of goodness, to which people respond Sabah al-Nur, morning of light. So what I was going to suggest doing that once we start posting our opening statements, we can put in Sabah al-Khair in the beginning, and then at the end we can say Sabah al-Nur, which in the Korean one they keep incorporating Korean words, so I wanted to incorporate a little Arabic Palestinian language. So that's, if you can't read it, it's Sabah-Khair, and then Sabah again, and the al-Nur. So add that to the first part. You just say Sabah al-Khair, and then at the end you can say Sabah al-Nur. It'll just make it a little more, I don't know, Palestinian. Normally, if you were in Palestine, the first person would say morning of goodness, and the second person would say morning of light. So then let me, does everybody have that for the opening statements? And then let me go to the computer. So in your class, I went in, of course, as the Palestinian Authority. Now you'll notice there are 5 unread messages. And I think everyone has the sign-in information, you know, the website, the SIN number, the username, the password, because then you can look at this more carefully. Because I did this in my morning class and it doesn't show up as good as I would like it to. But you can see that message number 1 is from Simpan, the person who oversees, oh, there's the president, oversees the simulation. Then there's something about summit schedules, and you'll note, by the way, the European Union has posted. So number 3 is the European Union opening general statement, and then you can see 4 and 5 are the human rights and economics opening statement. So, and I think later this afternoon, the Minister of Environment will be meeting with me and we will post this. So we kind of kicked it off and we decided, since the EU was totally ready, we didn't need to wait. The DPRK is still playing catch up, and we're not too bad here, but I think going off camera first, well, I wasn't on camera. I think the only one we were having to finish really was the environment one. So, and I think President Abbas, let me just go back to something. I was suggesting for, at the beginning, before you start talking, put Sabah al-Kahir, which means morning of goodness, and at the end put Sabah al-Nur, which means morning of light, so that it gives us a little, you know, I mean, that's a traditional Palestinian greeting in response, and then it gives us a little more of an exotic edge to our opening statements. The European Union is not going to have anything like that, but North Korea has, I think, at least 3 Korean words. So we have started, and I'll go to that in a minute. I'll just give the president a chance to write this down, and then we'll take a look. Again, if you have it on your computer, it's probably, if you have your computer with you, it's probably easier to see than on my big screen, because even though the screen is fairly big, I don't know if it's bigger than the one upstairs or not. Got the greeting, President Abbas?
What?
You have the greeting?
Yes, I got it. Thank you so much.
So this is kind of hard to read, even though, unless you guys are real close to the screen, I got to get up and go to it. And hopefully you can still hear me. The scenario, global conditions have changed rapidly. The spread of the coronavirus not only has created a health crisis worldwide, but has some disruptions. In other areas, the presidential election in the U.S. continues to roil U.S. policy decisions. And of course, on Saturday was the South Carolina primary, and then yesterday was Super Tuesday for the Democrats. And then the Israeli election, which was Monday, and we have the outcome from that, which seems likely to keep Netanyahu, the current prime minister of Israel, in office. Disrupt policies and politics in the Middle East will not be that easy. In short, as countries began their negotiations on only 3 issues, the 3 that are in the SIM packet, but we always make it broader, it is clear that things can, and then was dropped, continue to change quickly, and that international politics remain uncertain. So this is SIMCON's official launching of this year's simulation. And then, since I'm reading them for Palestine with you right now, they will be showing up when you go in as red. And then message 2. Now here's the conundrum with message 2. Because your college continues to have the break when I tell them they shouldn't have it. Now, I can't require you to go to a summit, although I would encourage you to go to, they're not on break. They typically go in March. So I had already planned to be away. But, you know, if you happen to be anywhere near a computer, even if you're away or home and you want to go into the summit, we'll talk about this as we get closer to the break, but I would encourage you to do it. It's an interesting experience. the first round, the pre-summits, which are only an hour, are run by SimCon, her or himself. It's usually her, but SimCon will run them with an agenda, and you can see they're an hour. And because this is all over the place, on April 7th, it's noon, and then 8th, 5:30, 9, 5 o'clock, based on a proposal that we have in the proposal center. So it's very possible that Palestine could be asked to chair, the EU could be asked to chair. The DPLK is never asked to chair because that's just too volatile. And they're a little behind, but they'll catch up. So you can see on the 21st, it's at noon. Wednesday, the 22nd, it's at 5. And again, Thursday, the 23rd is at 5. If one of us ends up sharing it, then I always make sure that I'm on the campus with the appropriate minister, which I guess would always be here. But for fun, I may go off to Olean. In fact, I think on the 21st, I have to be in Olean. So check these out and see what your schedule is like. I know Wednesday and Thursday is 5 to 6:30. I know some of you work or have other obligations, but we always try to do the post summits, especially because we very well may be chairing them, or at least Palestine might be chairing one of them. And then we'll just work our way through there. But the whole schedule's there, and you have the Eastern times. So, and then most people who do the summits, myself included, usually really enjoy them because we're all on at the same time, or as many as possible. And it's a little more fun than just the regular message center going back and forth. But keep in mind with the schedule. Now with the EU opening statements, after we post our opening statements, at some point we have to start talking at least to the EU for now, and whoever else goes in there. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but you can see that the European Union, this is their general opening statement, number 3. And in fact, they do bring up Palestine here. This one's not that long, but it's long enough. So one of the things I would suggest doing, especially because part of our job is now, they talk about the European Union Palestine Action Plan. So they're our friends. We don't have to worry about them. But I would ask you to read it. Then right after them is their human rights statement. And again, they talk about Palestine. So the EU keeps bringing up Palestine. And then the next one is their economic statement. And then sometime this afternoon, the environmental statement will go in. So at some point, go in, read them on your own. They will already be marked as read because I went into them now. But SimCon kicked it off, so we decided, why wait? We're going to put our messages in there. So what that means is then we're able to start putting ours in. Let's see. So again, you go in here, you hit compose message. These opening statements are going to be all President Abbas. You would click other. In ministry, you pick the one that's associated with you. The subject you can see from the European Union is the opening statement. You know, what you could do with the subject, you could even put Sabah al-Kahir there if you want to, or you can just put the opening statement of Palestine and then cut and paste the text in the message on. So President Abbas, I think yours was ready, right?
Yeah, I'll just add the greetings and make sure there are any spelling errors.
Okay, so my suggestion would be, if you have time today, go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Um, Well, we won't do the ministry ones until yours is out there, because you have to go first.
Right.
And
We'll
then,
get that done as soon as possible.
okay, cool, and then we'll see what happens, how people respond, because I have control over 3 delegations, but I don't have any control over the others, so. But the DPRK historically likes to be first, but they got a little behind, so at least the EU is in first and Palestine will be second. So if you check this and you see that President Abbas has, and then when you get a chance also, please read the EU statements, especially as it discusses Palestine. President Abbas, you had sent me the email, and I think
Yeah.
you saw the email that, why am I getting that mirror effect again?
Because you're recording the recording, and like where you can exit out of the little
Over
line.
there?
Yeah, but go to the line.
Oh.
Say cancel. And
Go to
then
the
yeah,
line.
yeah, there you go.
Okay, but what is it showing now?
It's showing your computer screen.
Oh, okay, I don't want to do that anymore.
Okay, so now you would want to change it on the monitor itself.
I want to change something here.
No,
Oh, you mean, yeah, I gotta, yeah.
yeah.
Duh. I should know that. Oh my God, I feel like I'm flying a jet plane. We would have crashed. I forgot what we were talking about.
President Abbas emailed you.
Oh yeah, thank you. So President Abbas, you emailed me about the stuff related to the Scholars Day. And I think did you see the email that I copied you in on to Annie? And then Annie responded what to do. She said, I think she said just, you gotta do a Jamestown only on one, but she said just cut and paste.
I did not see her response.
Oh, did you get it?
Yeah, I
Oh,
checked
okay.
it like
Sorry.
a little bit ago, but I didn't see it at the time.
Yeah, I think with that one question, she said you'll have to do a Jamestown and an Olean one, but all you have to do is cut and paste. You don't have to like write a brand new one.
So it would just be a different like slide with names on it, like it would just have Olean's name.
No, I mean, it's the application that has to be submitted.
Oh, okay.
For the slideshow, it would just be the same one we
Two
would
separate
do.
applications.
Say what?
I'd be doing 2 separate applications, one for each campus. And
Yeah,
just
but
to
it-
work out.
But it's the same one.
Yeah.
So we don't have to rewrite everything. Whatever you do for Olean, we do for Jamestown. Right?
Yeah.
And then with the slideshow, same thing.
Okay.
Whatever we do for Olean, we just use the same one. And I remember that question, and then there's the one where I have to sign off, and that's my problem. But was there another question you asked that we didn't answer?
The only other thing was that because you're our faculty mentor,
Right.
you have to sign off on a paper that, yes, I give these students permission to do this presentation.
Yeah, and that's
That's not something you can do until after we've completed the slideshow,
right.
show it to you formally.
Well, I think it's even after you just submit the application, then I sign off on it.
It's a PDF on the site,
Right.
but on Scholars Day, so.
Okay. But did they say they wanted the slideshow right away?
No. You have to see the slideshow, like, that's what you're signing off on, that you
Yeah.
see the presentation before.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, and even if it's not totally complete, I'll say I saw it because I'm working with you on it, so.
Okay.
I think they get a little too bureaucratic in the other building at times. And I try to talk them out of it. So, does that mean then we could go ahead and do the description in the application?
Yeah.
And didn't we already have a rough description, or was that another class?
And no, we have the layout, a possible layout.
Oh, what, for the slideshow?
Yes.
But did we have a description written up yet?
I don't even think we fully decided on a title yet either.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we, while we're at it, decide on a title right now?
we're doing it on all of Palestine, right?
Right.
Just like, we should embody the fact that there are people in Palestine.
Well, does everybody have a suggestion for a?
Did you say the people of Palestine for a title?
Yeah, I don't know, I feel like that's too straightforward and that doesn't talk about simulation at all.
Well, and we don't necessarily have to talk about the simulation in the title. I'd like to think that, I mean, people of Palestine is fine, but I'd like to do a title that might grab somebody's attention.
What about like prosperity for Palestine?
Like, gonna grab somebody's attention.
Maybe.
Do we have to do alliteration?
No.
No, we don't have to. I'm just trying to, there's nothing wrong with prosperity for Palestine either. I'm just trying to think of something intriguing that would make you look. Maybe I'm being too dramatic here.
Maybe like a new era.
What is Nakba? What is it? Is it catastrophe?
Yeah, it's
Is it
catastrophe.
the catastrophe of Palestine or?
Well, but that sounds so doom and gloom, the catastrophe of Palestine. I was doing some additional reading and research on a couple of the authors and because I always talk about this romantic notion, but one of the things I found while I was just the other day spending some time doing stuff. You don't want to see my hand. This is actually a postcard, which with the light is a little not showing as well as I would like it to. Let me move it. Anyways, that, by the way, is one of the towers that they use. And if you look, I always want to go there, but if you look up here, you can see that you can't see into there, but that's where the Israeli Defense Forces are watching the movement of Palestinian peoples. And then you can see this gentleman, they somehow got up there, they probably didn't stay for long, but that's the Palestinian flag that he's got there. And then, so I just had another postcard. So we don't need to incorporate those, but one of the other ones that I found, this one's really good. This could actually be turned into a slide, I would suspect. It's the Palestinian loss of land from 1946 to 2014. So you can see in 1946, the little bit of white you see there is Jewish land. All the green is Palestinian land. Then under the UN plan, you could see what we're calling the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And you'll notice, by the way, that there is a little connecting point between the two of them. And then we have this land up north. And then by the time you get to the end of the 1967 war, you could see that the two are separated, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. We lost that little plot of land up north. You can even see the Gaza Strip is smaller. And then you can see by 2014, a series of islands. I'll leave this up to you folks, but this postcard I think is really dramatic, showing the loss of land in this time period, and it does it fairly easily. So if you want to use it, we certainly can. And then on the other side, this is another interesting one, because I keep complaining about this. U.S. taxes, because we send, it's kind of like that other one where we look like a series of islands that I guess we call it an orange color, is the Palestinian fragments, because we've been cut off from our own people. And then the little triangle is the Israeli settlements. Now, this one's a little stronger. It says billions of US tax dollars go to Israel each year, enabling it to keep on building illegal Jewish-only settlements on Palestinian land. Our taxes help the Israeli military destroy Palestinian homes, families, agriculture, and infrastructure. And this one's pretty powerful, but it says the Israeli military. So we're not blaming Israel. We're not blaming Jewish people, because somebody will look at us and say, oh, you're anti-Semitic, but it says, no, the Israeli military. So there's nothing wrong with taking those two images along with these other images if you like, but I'll leave it up to you guys. We can incorporate that into the slideshow. And these are some of the best ones I have. With some explanations. The other one I have is the, with slash marks, the number of days or months or years he's been in there. And it doesn't show up that well on the camera, but over here is the window of his jail cell with the bars. And he's using the chalk to draw a line across the bars. So he used the chalk to record all the time they've been spending in jail. And then symbolically, he has the window, which, typical, like at least in old Westerns, you'd see a jailhouse window with bars, and he's using the chalk symbolically to cross it out into Manning, because I think, not that we can't find other slides, but if we can make slides out of these cards, that would just, makes the job a whole lot easier. Not that that's what my goal is. And certainly at the presentation, the opening speaker can say Sabah al-Kahar, and at the end you can say Sabah al-Nur. So I would use that too. I think it gives it a little more of an international flavor. So I'm just thinking of ways to, it's a team project. You guys have to do all the presentations and all the work, but, we're working on this together, so. Yes, ma'am.
So I just found the first postcard that you showed us, or not the first picture, the first diagram of the land, of Palestinian loss of land.
This postcard?
Yeah, I have the digital representation.
Okay.
Would we want that to represent the Balfour or the Nakba slide?
Well, this is Nakba because it's 1946.
All right, making sure.
But at the time of Balfour, from Balfour to Nakba, that green stuff is us.
Mm-hmm.
But this one shows dramatically. I mean, it's so visual. I really like it. So we still have to come up with a title.
Maybe something about a skeleton key for the title.
Yeah, we talked about that because it illustrates the right of return. But I think at one point, didn't we also talk about the skeleton key showing up on all the slides?
Yeah.
And then the Palestinian flag on all the slides?
Yeah, we were gonna do that, but I just didn't know if we wanted to say something attention catching about a skeleton key.
Well, when we talk about the right of return and the Palestinian diaspora and compare it with the Israeli right of return, that if you can document that your grandmother was Jewish, you have a right to go back and claim Israeli citizenship. And Palestinian people can't because we've been deemed fungible. So we're at home anywhere, even though the land to us that we occupied for 4,000 years is how we define ourselves. I know I'm giving my lecture, sorry, but I think that's the kind of stuff we want to explain to people.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we said maybe something more creative, if we called it something like the skeleton key and then saw a skeleton key on each side, it would get people wondering what's this all about? And then we get to the side where we explain it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work or.
No, I think that's good.
Always talk about it, and what we say always includes something that not necessarily explain the skeleton key, but the symbolism, how the books drop hints about what's going to happen if you to this, or you were locked out of, and then show up by skeleton keys here, jobs left.
Yeah, and you got.
I think that's.
Oh, sorry.
Matters. I don't think that's a very great idea.
What's not a great idea?
But I just said, I didn't think it was good.
Oh, You were saying your own idea wasn't so good? Well, we're still just brainstorming, but you know what? There is I didn't even know he showed up, but there's two things that have a tendency to suck me in and never suck me out, and that doesn't make sense. But one issue is Palestine because it so deeply affected me, and the other one is my continued study of Islam, which has deeply affected me. In fact, I studied Islam in New Mexico because there's an Islamic Institute one summer. I'm hoping to go back this summer because in my later career, the two most important things have actually been Palestine and Islam. But this is a book called Pay No Heed to the Rockets, Life in Contemporary Palestine. And I keep that life, especially because everything that happened to them. And this book reminded me of one of the poets. I want to do justice to his name. And I'm bringing this up because it might lead us into a title. Poetry is big stuff in Palestine, more so than it is here, unless you happen to like poetry as much as I do. But Barghouti wrote a volume of poetry, and he titled it The Poetry of Resistance. Because, when we talk about what power the Palestinians have, one of the other poets talks about his weapon is his pen, which I like too, because we don't have any weapons, so I got to write my frustration. And in the poetry of resistance, he talks about how, and this is Barghouti talking, his gun is my personal history. It is the history of my estrangement. His gun took from us the land of the poem and left us with the poem of the land. Just make sure I do justice to Mr. Barghouti. So we have that other phrase, people without a land for a land. Yes, people without land for a land without people. And so Barghouti, as a Palestinian, wrote a lot of poetry. And it was another poet who said that his pen was his weapon. And even in this, talking about Barghouti, he talks about how it gets the Israelis really upset when they write this way. They often get angry at him. In fact, there's one line in here. A woman of about 20 years asked me where I planned on staying and what I planned on doing. She interrupted me when I started to list the Palestinian writers I wanted to meet. And she says, "Don't say Palestine. This is Israel. Stop saying Palestine." And I think I told you about after Palestine, and I had to go out to do my work in Utah, and we had that introduction, and that guy came up to me after I said, "Well, I just returned from studying in Palestine." And he came up to me and he said, "You mean Israel?" And I said, "No, I went through Israel to get Palestine." And he said, "No, you meant Israel." I said, "No." And I'm no Mr. Barghouti, but that's what when he had that reaction from that young woman who got really aggravated, "Stop saying Palestine." It's almost like if you say the word Palestine, it gets the people who are opposed to Palestine so shook up. And Barghouti and there's another line in here where Barghouti got stopped at one of the checkpoints, at least I think it was him. And Barghouti is quite famous as a poet, even in Israel. And so one of the guards was quite literate, and when he found out who was standing in front of him, he said, "Well, sir, would you mind?" And walked away. Because, even though he appreciated that the soldier knew about him, he was quite annoyed that he wanted him to entertain him. It's not quite the same thing, but it reminds me of when the Nazis would pull out Jewish musicians to play classical music while people in the camps were either working or being led off to slaughter. And in that case, if they didn't play, they would get killed. In this case, he didn't have to recite, but he said, I don't recite poetry for my prison warden. So, you know, you could do a whole class just on the literature of the land. Now, again, I tend to be hopelessly romantic, even when it's not Valentine's Day. You know, I could see a title being Land of the Poem, Poem of the Land, or Palestine, Land of the Poem, Poem of the Land. Again, it's up to you guys, it's your presentation. That's what I'm looking for, something to suck people in, something literary. But you know, don't feel bad if you want to say to me, that's stupid, I don't want to do it, it's okay with me. It's just.
There's Palestine, Land of the Poem, and then Palestinians, Poem of the Land, or like poetry.
Oh,
That could incorporate
yeah, say that again, please.
Palestine, Land of the Poem, and then Palestinians, Poem or Poetry of the Land.
Yeah, I like that.
It's long, it's long.
Yeah, so what? But I like Palestine, Land of the Poem, it gets that land in there, and then Palestinians, the poetry of the land. I think that, and it uses land and poetry to let people know that the land defines who we are, not the Nakba, not Balfour, not the wars, and that we tend to be, and they are, Palestinians, highly educated, because that's the only thing the Israelis can't take away from them. With 5 universities, that's a lot in a very small place, all functioning under sometimes difficult situations. So they do study poetry, they do write poetry, and people like Barghouti are famous all over the world and in Israel. I wish I could remember what his first name is, but I can find that out easily. That's his first name. But I like that, Palestine, Land of the Poem, Palestinians, Poetry of the Land. That sounds like a catchy title to me. I think if I saw that on a slide, I would be intrigued. Even if I knew nothing about this, I gotta know more. So I think, unless your fellows object, I think that's a great suggestion. How do your fellows feel?
I'm on board.
That's fine.
Everybody thinks they're okay? Madison is ill, so she can't consent, but I'm sure if she would, here she would.
I put 2 links in the Google Docs, not the slides, but like the actual document, to some pictures. One of them is like 51 pictures of paintings on the wall, and then the other one, Palestinians took pictures of the smoke from Israeli rocket strikes, and then they imagery, I guess.
And I think at one point we talked maybe about using the woman putting the shoe on the wall. I mean, there's so much we can work with. And what did we say? We're gonna have 10 slides or something?
Yeah.
Right now we have 11.
But does the last one include your names?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we added in the number 10 with the names, but then we added in like the questions to leave them asking
Okay.
of like
Right.
our possible solutions.
Right, okay, yeah, cool. Anything else before I take a look at the Israeli elections?
Are we gonna work on the abstract today, or are we gonna wait till next class?
I'm sorry, what?
So we still haven't written the abstract. Are we gonna do that next class?
Well,
Just like sum up our presentation. I think it might be easier to work together on it, because then we all agree what our project's about.
the only thing is, I think typically when you write something, you need somebody to write it, and then the rest of us have input.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can write it in class. But now that we got a title, and we got some idea what we want to put in there, because we talked about a potential structure. Didn't you have a sheet where you broke some stuff down?
Yeah, and then I actually made the The first is the intro, which now has the Palestinian flag behind it, and then it reads Palestine, the land of the poem, Palestinians, the poem of the land.
Oh, I like that.
And then slide 2 is the map where it transitions from the out view to the close view.
Right, the blank map.
Yep, and then we'll go into the beginning of history for slide 3. Slide 4 is the culture. Slide 5 is the Balfour Declaration information. Slide 6 is the Nakba, which we've decided for the picture for that. Slide 7 will be environment. Slide 8 is the economics, and slide 11 is our names.
Now, were you able to share that with everybody?
Yep.
Or-
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, we're well on our way.
Yep.
All we need then is does somebody want to volunteer to write the abstract?
I'm fine with doing it.
Okay. Do you think you might be able to write it up so we can look at it on Swell Wednesday or, I know today's Swell Wednesday, right? Swell Friday?
Yeah.
I don't know what day it is.
What? This Friday?
Yeah, is that too tight?
I'll definitely have like a rough draft and then like we can think through.
Yeah, or you can wait till Monday. I mean, what would be better for you? Because it looks like we're in pretty good shape.
I think by Monday I have.
Okay, that's fine.
Fleshed out a copy.
Yeah, because then you'll be, if you can buy, what today's Wednesday then?
Yes, today is Wednesday.
I'm surprised I could find my way here. Yeah, because I would post the opening statement, the abstract can wait till Monday, and then we can post 2 of our ministry.
Opinion on doing pictures for each slide, and then we'll explain each picture.
Pictures for each slide, what do you mean?
Yeah, so like right now we have like the map, which will explain that, and then for the Nakba, we're having a picture represent that. So I know that last class we talked about for each of the ministries.
Oh, I see.
Each
Yeah.
minister will select like a
A
picture.
picture and then do a little talk.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I mean, not each of them, but they'll give the basic representation.
Well, that's more of the effect eventually of the.
Right, yes. But
But
so for,
when you talk about the ministry, you mean like a picture for human rights and picture for economics?
yes, yeah, because we were talking about the protests of like the woman with the
Oh,
shoe.
yeah, that could be a good one for the human rights one.
Right, and so we talked on Monday about just doing a picture, and then we'd go into whoever's doing the
So you would
presentation.
just show a picture and then we would talk?
Yes, instead of just putting words
Right.
and like having,
Yeah,
like
no, I
having
like
them
that.
read what we're already saying. Is that all right with everyone else?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was gonna say, Carolyn, if you wanted to put your, if the abstract in the Google document, then we could like look at it too, even before Monday. I don't know if you wanna type it there or not, but if you wanted help with that.
That's okay with you?
So you're typing it right now.
She's typing it right now? Are you hard at work already? I think we're off. I got like 4 minutes. Okay, great, thank you. I'm excited. Hopefully you are too. I took this off of Harrods.com. I get messages from them because I just signed up for it. But it's also an English language Israeli newspaper that is very supportive of the Palestinian side while still being very pro-Israel. So it really tries to point out Israel's faults. And it's published in English, so when I was over there, I used to buy it every day. It's really quite good. I think there's still some up on the wall in one of my classrooms upstairs. But this is from, it says, Israel election results, Netanyahu he gets 58 seats, and he needs 61 to put together a majority. And in the parliamentary system, you have to get a majority to form a government. If you don't get a majority, then you got to find another party to join with you until you get a majority. So Netanyahu fails to secure a majority after third Israeli election. Now, if you're worn out by American elections, notice this is the third national election in 133 seats. And here's the really big news. the Arab majority, and there are Arab Palestinian people living in Israel as full citizens. Their party went up to third place with 15 seats, which is quite a bit. So it says, with nearly all votes counted, Israel's election results indicate Prime Minister Netanyahu, so Likud, that's his party, is the largest party, but the right-wing bloc has failed to secure a 61-seat majority to form a government. Benny Gantz's Kahol party trails behind by several. The Arab Joint List cemented a historic victory. So they got noticed by becoming the third party, and even Haaretz is noting this is historic. Not only remaining Israel's third largest party, but gaining more strength. So they actually picked up seats. And for people who are concerned about Arabs being kind of pushed aside in Israel, this is a major step. And for those who find this disturbing, I guess it's disturbing. But one of the other ones that I took off Haaretz, they described it an earthquake, how Israel's Arabs achieved their historic election win. Arab Israelis definitely came out in droves this election and got an extra boost from Jewish voters. The result is a record number of Arab lawmakers in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, including 5 women, because especially when I talk about Islam, one of the questions always comes up about treatment of women. But, they got 15 members and a third of them are women. So it sort of goes against what people normally think about that part of the world. The country's Arab citizens have good reason to celebrate, and it's because they got the 15 seats in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, 2 more than it had in the last government. So Netanyahu can't get a majority, but the Arabs picked up 2 more seats. The number of Arab women serving in the Knesset also looks to set break records. The Joint List has 4 women in its top 15 spots, more than most Jewish parties. And occupying 15th spot on the Joint List slate is Iman Khatib, a representative of the Islamic United Arab List, who will be the first hijab-wearing woman ever to serve in the Knesset. There are some Israelis, and certainly not all, who are going to be a little shook up by this. And then they said, well, how did this happen? Dramatic increase in voter turnout within the Arab community and plummeting support for Jewish parties among Arab voters, because some Arab voters voted for Jewish parties that were sympathetic, but that has disappeared. And then if you look, according to preliminary estimates, 65% of the electorate in Arab towns and cities voted. The turnout was the highest among Arab voters since 1999, and in the United States, even in a presidential election year, we're happy if we get over the 50% mark. So the Arabs in Israel figured out how to get power. I love the fact that there's going to be a hijab-wearing woman in the Knesset. That's sorry to laugh. It's just like this, because that people get all worked up about that, and I just think it's a step forward. So that's why I like the heading. It was an earthquake. Now, because of everything going on with Super Tuesday in the United States, it kind of got lost, but it's there. So things are changing, and there's hope. So I guess I'll see you all on Swell Friday if I remember what day it is.
For everyone on Jamestown campus, we have an event right now at noon. It's the Alcohol-Free Mix-Off. And then tonight we have comedian Punchline drunk Patrick Hurlbert. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He'll be here from 7 to 8.
What is the alcohol-free? What is it?
Alcohol-Free Mix-Off. We make classic alcoholic beverages, but without the alcohol. So we find clean substitutes.
We're gonna have the alcohol one.
Cocktail.